Hi, hopefully you can see and hear me okay. I'm being very good today and I've got a full thing of water to keep me hydrated. Hi Tracy, hi Pam, hi Muriel. So yes, today I'm going to be making the Passionflower by Blue Calla. I've done a little bit of prep work, so hopefully everything should run smoothly. I think I've remembered all of my hardware. Yeah, I think we are good. Hi Sue, hi Donna. Donna says, afternoon, been looking forward to this, been wanting to make a Passionflower. It is a fab bag. Julie says, thanks for replying back to me. I find something better than the ripstop. Yeah, I just haven't had a chance to reply to it. I've seen that you've put another comment on, but I haven't had a chance to reply back to that yet. Yeah, but in that one, that NCW with the no fold card slots, I would definitely use something sturdy like a waterproof canvas for the best results. Hi Suzanne from Canada. She has it almost cut out. Hi Maureen. So what I'm going to do is you can see I've got all of my pattern pieces here. I'm going to go through the pattern pieces, how I've got them interfaced and such like. I have already just chuck everything on the floor as I do. I have already got one side made up. This is looking quite blue on my screen, but it is a very vivid purple. So because the front and the back is exactly the same, I've already done one side. So we'll go through making the other side and then we'll get the bag sewn up. So yes, so I'll go through each of the pattern pieces, like how many there would be, how I've interfaced or stabilized them, and basically what I'm using. I'm going to see if I can pull this kind of over, this thread from Little Stitcher Sews. So this is kind of one of the reasons why I didn't do the Passionflower last week, was because I was waiting on this thread coming. Because the minute I saw that thread, I was like, I've got to have that for me Passionflower. I didn't need thread, but I wanted it. So I'm using that. It's like a purple, blue, pink, variegated Tex 45 thread from Little Stitcher Sews. And Laura has been very generous and said that there is a discount code. I've put it in the description down below. But I'm just going to remind myself of what the exact code is. TBMS, or capital letters, 15% off any threads. But I have put a link to the exact thread that I'm using in the description, and then I have put the discount code that Laura has so kindly given us. Hi Sophie. So yes, so I'm going to switch over to the other camera, get rid of my mouse because I don't need that anymore. And which one will be best? I think this camera angle will be best for going through all of the pattern pieces. So yeah, so it's showing up a little bit better at this angle. The sort of purpley colour. It's not looking quite as blue. So I'm just going to stop the banner and take away my name, because we all know what I'm called now, just so it doesn't interrupt with the screen. So yes, so this is basically what our front and back panel is going to look like. In the pattern, the back panel is just sort of plain. You don't have this second pocket, but I'm like, well, I'm just going to make my front and my back panel exactly the same, because basically you can never have too many pockets. So the first piece is our main panel piece. I have already marked where I need to take my connector parts to. I've marked my centers, and this piece has been stabilized with some Decaville light all out of the seams. And then I'm going to try and do this in some sort of order, but I might not. I then have my two pocket pieces, my lining and my front. This fabric is out of the bag maker's box last month. It's beautiful. It is it's got, I think it's called like a bonded poly. Some places call it waterproof or water resistant canvas, but it's different. I think it's different to that. It's got like a sort of really soft feel on the back. I think there might be a few suppliers of it in the UK, but I'm not sure of many. Again, I think Laura from Little Stitcher Sews is getting some in. If anybody knows any other suppliers of that type of fabric that wants to share them, please feel free to do so in the comments. You probably can't share a link, but if you just put the company name, people will be able to find it. So that is my pocket front piece and my lining. I then have my 2 lining pieces and in the fabric out of the bag maker's box. This hasn't been interfaced because it's quite sturdy. I should have said that obviously with these pieces, these pocket pieces, I did originally cut 2 of each. So there was 2 of my main fabric and 2 of my lining, which was interfaced with some woven interfacing because the lining is cotton. I then have my bottom pieces. I'm not 100% sure if it's kind of showing up particularly well on the camera, but you can see that variegated thread. It's just gorgeous. So my lining piece is the fabric from the bag maker's box. This is just a black vinyl. I have Decaville Heavy out of my seam allowances and then just fusible fleece over the top. Now, because I am sewing on a Jack H2 industrial machine, I can sew through the fleece within the seams. If you're sewing on a domestic, if you're not sure whether your machine will handle any extra thickness, just keep the fleece out of the seam allowances as well if you're going to use it. The reason that I've used the fleece is just to give a little bit more depth to my quilting. So it's just personal preference. It's absolutely fine to just use the Decaville Heavy on the base. I have my 2 lining zipper lining pieces with a accent. I also have a slip pocket piece. This is cut out of cotton because I was all out of this fabric by this point, and it's just been interfaced with a woven interfacing. And then you have, this is my top. I've got it written on the back somewhere, possibly not on this one. This is my top lining panel. So this is what will sit on the top of my lining to sandwich my zipper panels. And then I have my zipper panels. So I am doing my zipper panels slightly differently to how the pattern says. Normally you would have 4 pieces, but all I've done is cut mine so that it's going to be on the fold. And I prefer to do that because it reduces the bulk in the seam where the zip is, but you'll see when we get to that stage how it looks differently. So to get to the measurement of how I needed to cut 2 pieces instead of 4 was basically I just took the measurement of 1 piece, doubled it and removed 1 of the seam allowances from one side. So basically I reduced it by 1/2 inch because we turn over by 1/4 inch on each side. So that was how I did it. I doubled the measurement and reduced it by 1/2 inch for the seam allowance that we're not going to be using on the fold. I hope that makes sense. And then I am missing a piece. I'll find it in a second. Oh, I thought it was under my slippers, but it's not. I will find it in a second. I have my handle, which is just in black vinyl, and should hopefully maybe be able to see, but I have a line drawn down the center. And then I should have another piece of one of these. I'm just going to check in case it is sort of caught up in amongst another piece. Let me just double check. It's definitely here because I have seen it. Excuse my creaky chair. Well, where has that gone? It's going to be on the floor somewhere, isn't it? I should be able to see it because my floor is grey and my piece is black. But it has decided to vanish. So basically, you have 8 pieces this size, 4 cut for your D-ring connectors and 4 cut for the side connectors, and I'll show you what I mean. So you have 4 cut for these and then 4 cut for these, and they're exactly the same size, so it is basically 8 in total. And then on one of the pieces, which is the one that has gone missing, it's not the end of the world because I'll be able to quickly cut another one. But I know that it was definitely cut because I have just literally seen it this morning. But they did just fall on the floor, so it is going to be on the floor somewhere. What I did with, I'll come in a little bit so hopefully you can see. What I did is I put a piece of Decaville light down the center of 4 of the pieces, and they're the pieces that are going to have the D-rings connected to them, so just to give them a little bit of strength. So 3/4 inch wide, and I put on a piece about 4 inches long. Basically, I just need it supporting at the point where the D-ring is going to be. And when I've sort of started the prep for these ones, so when I've turned them in and sewn down the middle there, I've just made a little mark so that I know that this is the one that has Decaville in it, and also this is the end that has the Decaville in it, because obviously once they are sort of folded into the center and you can't see the inside anymore, it's hard to see which is the Decaville and which one isn't. So you're absolutely right, Maureen, it would not be alive if we didn't have a piece go missing. It's definitely here because I have literally just seen it when I came into the sewing room, but I did knock a lot onto the floor, so it's obviously just gone underneath something. We will find it, it will be fine. And then hardware, I'm using these double D rings in gunmetal. So originally I had 4 of them, so you need 4 of these. I have a magnetic snap in 18mm, obviously 2, 1 for the front, 1 for the back. I have a zip end. I had 4 purse feet, obviously already 3 attached. I'm going to attach the other one in a second. 2 D-rings for the side connectors, which I think are also on the floor. And then I have already made my crossbody strap. So this has just been made in exactly the same way that I make on my cross strap video. So it's just a double fold vinyl strap, so made to 1 inch wide. So I have 1 inch strap adjuster and 2 swivel clasps at the end, so you will need them. You can obviously make your strap whatever size, length you want it to be. just obviously have then the coordinating hardware. So I'm just having another quick look to see where on earth that piece has gone. It has absolutely vanished. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut another piece and put some Decaville on it before we start, and then I know I have it. Well, isn't that a mystery as to where that could have possibly gone? Because it's literally nowhere near any of my machine, my little bag where I keep everything. So 2 seconds. So I'm literally just going to cut out a couple, well, another one piece. Excuse my back. So for anybody who's interested in where I do my cutting out, this is where I cut out. And just making sure that it's all nice and level. And then just while my iron is heating up to put some Decaville on, I will mark the centre. Just using a little bit like a chalk pen for this, just because it does show up a little bit better against the black. And being very good and putting everything away nice and neatly, because I have been sorting out all of my cupboards while I've been destashing, and everything is so neat and tidy, and I wonder how long it will stay that way. So I've just cut a strip there for my strap connector as well. I've cut it in one bit so that I can stitch down, and then I can just cut it in half. There is my iron ready. So I always have in my little box of scraps some 1/4 inch, 3/4 inch strips of Decaville. And basically the reason being is for exactly this reason. You know, when you get those little scrappy bits of Decaville that you don't quite know what to do with, I use them in these. So like if I've got vinyl that I feel is going to stretch out, I'll use some Decaville. I'll use some Decaville on that. And then if I need to use any to sort of, like I say, strengthen some strap connectors, or just, you know, little bits, I never ever chuck any Decaville away. So there we go. So basically this is how I've got a nice little bit of thread there. This is how I've put that Decaville on. So it's about 4 inches or so, maybe it's 5, I've maybe overestimated. Haven't put it right to the end because it doesn't need to be, because I just basically want it to be, when I sort of fold this over, where my D-ring is going to be is where my Decaville is going to sort of mainly be. So we'll work on these straps first. So this is eventually, so when you cut out, you would have 4 of these and 4 without the Decaville, because you won't need the Decaville in the side ones. Alice is saying you'll find it once you've got another. I know what's going to happen now that I've cut these out is I'm going to look down and I'm going to see the end of it just sort of peeping out. Yeah, and then it'll come in handy for something. I'll keep it to one side. And Donna's saying the same. You'll find it as soon as you prep another. I did, as I say, I did knock my pieces off the table onto the floor, so it will be on the floor. I just can't see it. Muriel saying I received my template sets yesterday and one of them was broken into 3 pieces. They have refunded me, but it's currently sold out. Oh no, how frustrating. So this has just literally been folded into the center, both sides. Using some double-sided tape to keep it in place. And then the same on the other side. So as soon as I have folded these in, I will remember that my Decaville is at this side. You can usually sort of feel where the Decaville is, but it's not always sort of easy to tell. So I like to just make myself a little mark so that I remember this is the one with the Decaville and which end the Decaville is at. Because we all know it does not take much to confuse me. So that is the end. Oh, that's the wrong colour. There we know. That is the end where it's going to be. And how I'm doing my top stitching with this is I'm doing a couple of rows of top stitching on all of my connectors, my handles, everything. So my first row of top stitching, basically to keep these in place, is going to be at 3/8 of an inch. So top stitching length, I always use 4.5 as a top stitching length, and construction length is 2.5. I think I said at the beginning I'm sewing on a Jack H2 walking foot machine, and the thread is Tex 45 from Little Stitcher Sews. And then the same on this side. Donna says, love this camera angle, makes it so easy to see what you're doing. I'm so pleased with it. It's really difficult to get camera angles. Anybody who does videos will tell you it's so hard to get lighting right, to get the camera angle right so that you're not in your own way when you're sewing. And yeah, it can be so difficult. So I'm pleased that it's a good angle. So basically that is my I know it's dark so it's difficult to say, but that's my 2 lines of stitching down the center of my straps, and I already have my other ones prepared. So I'm going to put my 2 with Decaville together and my 2 without Decaville together and pop them to one side for the time being. And then I am just going to prep my strap connectors. I'm kind of doing this while I know that my bobbin is pretty full. I do have another bobbin fully wound, so hopefully we will be okay with bobbins. So this one I'm going to fully prep, so this will have the 4 rows of stitching on it. So I'm going to do the first 2 at the 3/8. And then my next 2 rows of stitching are going to be at 1/8. So basically I'm going to have 4 rows of stitching in total. I'll just try and increase that light ever so slightly. Just trim back all of these threads, and hopefully you can kind of see that how I've got those 4 rows of stitching. Obviously some of the thread parts are lighter than others, so it just gives that lovely effect. I'm absolutely in love with this thread. I literally did only buy it because I wanted it for this part, for this bag, but I was like, yeah, I love it so much that I'll probably just use it on everything. Cynthia's here, good morning. I didn't turn my iron off. Tammy says, hi there from Maine. What is that on your machine? If you mean, are you meaning this? It's just a seam. It's just a seam guide. It's just quite a big one. It has a sort of attachment to help keep sort of the straps in place. So let's prep the D-rings, and then they can get put to one side. So I'm just going to baste these down. I think what I'm going to do as well is I'm just going to run some stitching right next to the D-ring just to help keep them D-rings nice and tight. So I've basically just ran row stitching about 3/8 from the D-ring, basically about as close as I can get it with my machine, and then I've just ran some stitching along the bottom as well just to keep it in place. So we will put them next to it and make a start on our pockets. So I'm using a magnetic snap to keep these pockets in place. I'm just making a note where my snap is going to go. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to line up this bottom, pull my trolley back over, and just use some clips to keep that in place. So I've attached it to the back, my main panel, because my magnetic snap is going to attach through the lining. This is my lining piece of my pocket, and then through into the main body piece. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it through both pieces. And then this back piece can get attached. So I'm just using a little bit of glue. I'm just using Beacon fabric glue just on the back of the hardware. I always like to do this because I just feel that it helps to keep the hardware a little bit more attached. I'm just going to get, I know I've obviously got Decaville on the back of this piece, but I'm just going to put another piece on, just basically just for a little bit extra security. So I want a front and a back extra piece for the lining as well. So I'm just going to mark through both extra pieces of Decaville and then cut this piece in half so that I have 2 extra pieces. Sue's here, so she's a bit late in joining. Just got back from hospital after treatment. Hope you're feeling all right, Sue. Sue's asking, would the box fabric be okay? Yeah, it should be. You might, obviously it's going to have Decaville on it, so yeah, it should be. Just checking other comments, see if there's any questions. I think Donna's just trying to find one for my machine. Oh, are you meaning the seam guide? Yeah, they are really handy. So I'm just going to pop that to one side again for the time being because we don't need it just yet. Pop the other magnetic snap to one side because I'm going to sew these pieces together first. Just because it is a little bit easier to sew, you know, your seams and top stitch when you don't have that magnetic snap already in place. I do have this seam guide as well, which I use mostly when I'm sort of constructing and stitching, and then I use this one when I'm doing straps because it helps to keep it in place. So the seam allowance is 3/8. I'm just sewing this at 3/8 of an inch. And then I'm just going to fold this over and top stitch it. What I do like to do when I've got pieces like this and I need to top stitch it is I will line it up at the bottom and just pop a couple of clips, and then I can press it out. Obviously this fabric can't really sort of iron it, so I'm just kind of finger pressing it. Donna's asking, how's my finger? Is it all healed after my fight with the jack? Yeah, it's still giving me a little bit, because it was sort of here that I did it. It's still a little tiny touch tender, but it's nothing major. It's more when I'm turning bags through or I'm using it to sort of push against anything that I can kind of feel it. But these things just take a time to heal, don't they? So I'm just top stitching this at 1/8 away from the edge. Morning, Brian. 6:30 where he is. Wow. He's only halfway through his first cup of coffee. I've been at the hospital this morning for an appointment. So it's been a manic day. Racing around, getting orders done, getting back, knocking things on the floor, not being able to find them. And yeah, just before, well, about an hour ago, I was like, yeah, I need a coffee. Very, very rare I drink coffee in the house. In fact, I can't remember the last time I drank coffee in the house, but I had one earlier. So those holes that are marked, I'm now just going to pop this magnetic snap through, put the backing on, and the magnetic snap. And sorry, just going back to your comment higher up there, Donna, when I was doing the D-ring, yes, if you wanted to put a rivet in there, you absolutely could. And again, I'm just using a little bit of duct tape just to protect that fabric. So I'm protecting this fabric from rubbing. So we now just want to sort of base this in place. So I'm just lining it up. And I put a couple of clips in at the bottom. Don't worry if, you know, your edge at the bottom isn't exactly straight. It'll get caught up in the seam when we sew it shut. What I am going to do is just use my ruler to ensure that this edge is all nice and lined up, and it's a little bit out. So I'm just basically using my ruler to line up against the edge, making sure that this pocket is nice and straight, and then I'll clip it at the bottom. So okay, so I'm just going to base this in place. And then if you want to, you can, but this isn't, you know, particularly needed if you don't want to, because this is going to be all caught in with our straps. But if you want to run a row of basting stitches along these edges, then you absolutely can, to keep these in place. I'm not worrying about back stitching or anything because, like I say, these are just to sort of keep it in place and make sure it doesn't move. Donna's saying now she's got a green machine, she wants to rivet everything. Yeah, you will do. I'm like that with because I obviously bind all of my pattern pieces, not my pattern pieces, my pattern instructions, and literally if something stops still long enough, I bind it. I'm a little bit OTT, but what can I say? Right, so we want the 2 straps that don't have any Decaville in them. So these are the plain ones, the ones that we haven't reinforced. And surprise, surprise, I'm going to use some double-sided tape. I know, shocking. I never use double-sided tape. And I'm just going to run some down the centre. So obviously on the back, it doesn't need to be sort of right to the top. It's just literally going to be so that it helps to keep it in place. So on your pattern piece, you will have some marks on the side and on the bottom here. These are the placements for your straps. Now I've snipped mine, but what I can do is use a little bit of pen on that one and on that one, so you can kind of see where I am lining my straps up to. So I'm going to take the backing off the double-sided tape, and what I want to do is I want to line up the edge here with that first mark, and then because there is actually 2 marks, so you've got 1 mark here, 1 mark there, and then there's 2 marks at the bottom, and you basically just want to line them up. Now, I'll readjust it a few times to make sure that I'm happy with it, and then give it a squidge down so that double-sided tape sticks. And then basically what we do is we top stitch down this edge and this edge to secure it in place. And that is why we only did the 2 rows of stitching initially, because the attaching it is going to create the other rows of stitching so it matches our other strap. So I kind of just keep readjusting it, make sure that I'm happy with it, and then top stitch down each side. So I'm about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. Should have checked me bobbin. Foreman. I never win at bobbin chicken, like never, like 100% never ever win at it. I'm just going to take these stitches out, and then hopefully be able to go back through the original hole. So I'm going to line up my first one with where I originally started, and hope and pray that I can match it as close as possible. Yeah, it's not bad. I probably might go over it with a hairdryer later on, and that'll help get rid of any holes that are still showing. And then, sorry, my thread is wanting to join me. And then just exactly the same on the other side. So obviously you've got a little bit more material to sort of keep under the machine when you're doing this side. So I just sort of keep mine rolled over. Let's just get rid of these threads. I mean, depending on how you top stitch, you might just want to top stitch it from the other side, but this is my preferred way of top stitching. I always like to top stitch this way. So that is our first two strap accent pieces put in. And then we are going to do the same with these. So I need to be at the end where my Deckerville is. Slightly wider tape. And sure it's an inch. Yes, it is. I was just double checking. So these need to be folded down by an inch. So I'm just making a mark at the 2 inch. Put a little bit of double-sided tape. And then that end gets folded down to meet that 2 inch mark. So but then basically your fold is 1 inch. No, these go on after. Give me 2 seconds. We need to do our handle first. You get put onto the connectors once the handle is done. My apologies. Okay, so the handle, I'm leaving around about an inch and a quarter at the top without any double-sided tape. basically just running some double-sided tape along that centre, and then again leaving about an inch, inch and a quarter where there isn't any. So like we've just done previously, I'm just going to fold these long edges into the middle after I've taken the back off the tape. If you ever have difficulty getting the back off the tape, a pin is a really good way to loosen it. So I always tend to start as well on a strap or a handle or anything in the middle, and then work my way to the edge, because I just find that it doesn't sort of twist or get as misshapen sometimes as if you start at one end and work your way to the other. Don't know if you can see how pretty that thread is. It's just gorgeous. I love it. I know it isn't always easy to show up when you're using black, and I do tend to try not to use black on my videos, but the purple, it was just too much. It needed the black as the accent. So I think I'm going to give this a little press-a-roo with my roller. This is just a leather roller. Oh, sorry, it's very squeaky. But it does just help to really flatten it out. And I'm just going to thread both of these D-rings onto this. And then this needs to have the short edges sewn together. I'm going to do that at about 1/4 of an inch. So you're basically forming a loop. I'm just going to take out a little bit of these corners just to reduce the bulk when it's folded in. And then you can sort of try and get a little bit of more double-sided tape into this part here, but I just tend to use clips. So I just fold that in to meet. So I just make sure that it's nicely lined up. And then what I'm going to do for the first pass round, I'm not sure what your first name is, but your username I think is Shepperley512 says, I like this view from above. Thank you. It's, again, like I said before, it's really quite hard getting camera angles and everything. So I'm going to do my first pass round of my top stitching at that 3/8 of an inch, and I'm starting just past like where that seam is, so I can catch it in. So I'm just going to move my clip a little bit on that side, make sure that I'm on a top stitching length, And then I'm just going to sew all the way around. I'll try and keep hold of them D-rings so that they don't clatter on the table. Just move that clip. And then I'm just going to do exactly the same thing, but on the other side. So keeping it at 3/8, starting just past that that seam. I'm just making sure that it's folded correctly. And I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. So in order to create the handle, just turn these D-rings round. So I'm going to line up where the seam is so it's roughly in the center and pull these two ends together. So I'm just going to pop a clip in there and tiny touch that way. And then these basically get pushed together and we're going to stitch it down. But you will not be surprised that I'm going to use some double-sided tape to keep it in place. Doesn't need to be the whole way along. I'll probably just put a little bit in this half and then a little bit in this half. And I'm literally just putting it in the middle, so it's not going to be where my stitching or anything is. And it just basically means that I can line this up. I will put a few clips in it as well, but it just helps to keep it in place and stops it shifting. It says my microphone, oh, my machine sounds nice too. Yeah, so I use a microphone and I have it set so that hopefully it doesn't pick up too many outside noises. So it hopefully should make my machine a little bit sort of quieter. So that's all sort of kept in place. And we are now just going to top stitch down each side. I'm not quite happy with that. Let me readjust. We're just going to top stitch down each side at that 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to start a little bit further up and move my seam guide in. When we get to the end where the D-rings are, we're going to sew across and then back around. So we're basically just going to create a really big rectangle. So I need to move this out of the way when I get to here. Turn it. Drop my needle down. And then basically just come back along the other side. And when I get to these corners, I'm just sort of lining up my needle using my foot and my wheel just to make sure that it's exactly where I want it to be. And that is the end of the handle. So you can see how that handle then comes together. So now is when we want to be putting the connectors on to the other side of the D-ring. Obviously I'm using these double D-rings. You don't have to do that. You can just use a standard rectangle ring. That's fine. I'm going to just put one side on to start with and attach it to the main panel. And then when we come to do the other side, I'll put the other one on. Just obviously I don't want to be working with it being really, really long. So just like I did before, I'm just going to put some double-sided tape down the middle. Back of this just, well, not the back, the bottom just doesn't want to separate. There we go. And you can see those two marks that I have there. Basically, that is where the edge of my D-ring lines up, and then I come down to where these two marks are and line up my piece. So you can see how it crosses over. So I'm going to sew this one in place first, because what we're going to do is we're going to sew up and then basically to mimic how the I've got it on the wrong way. Just suddenly thought then I need to double check that I have my handle the right way around, because I have my seam. There we go. No, that's still the wrong way around. Right, Deb. Let's work this out. So it's that way, that way. match that up to that 1 inch line, and then line it up again. Yeah, so because you have that seam at the back, obviously you want that to be on the underneath, you don't want that to be on the top. So just take a second or two just to make sure that you are lining it up the right way, and then I'm basically going to sew up, across and back down again. So I'm just going to drop my needle in to secure that. This has shifted slightly, so I'm just going to line it up from this angle. There we go, that's better. We've got extra threads. There we go. So a little bit like we did before, we just need to keep the excess sort of panel out of the way, and I'm just making sure that I'm keeping this lined up with those marks. And then we're just going to do exactly the same on the other side. Just took a close screenshot of the same guide. A must get for me. Yeah, they are really good. So I'm just making sure that I am keeping my handle nice and straight when I put this this connector on. And then exactly the same, I'm going to line it up with those two marks, and then line it up with the bottom. And just push that in place. And then I'm just going to turn it to this side and make sure that I'm, because I can see a little bit closer on this side, make sure that I'm happy with it before I stitch it down, and chuck my snips on the floor. They'll be in the same place that that other connector piece is. So that's the front all done. I'm just double checking that my handle is in correctly. I am going to tidy up that excess strap, and then I am just going to pop a couple of rivets in. Hole punch and my rivet press. So I'm just going to punch a couple of holes, and I'm just going to try and make sure that I line them up as closely as I can to these ones, because I did just sort of eyeball it. And I'm just making sure that as well as I'm going in the middle of those stitching lines. Just try and make sure I've got all the way through. Oh, there we go. Sophie's saying, I'm hungry, got any biscuits? I haven't. I am totally biscuit free at the moment. I'm trying to be good and get a few pound off before my holiday. I mean, basically that's just, you know, so I've got a few pound that I can put back on again when I'm on holiday. Donna's saying, I'm thinking the same, but it's too close to dinner to have a biggie. No, see, I would say tea. It's too close to tea to have a biggie. So I'm basically just putting these rivets through where I've made those holes. Then I'm going to pop the backs on. And then set them. do have a video on my channel on like using a rivet press and choosing the right sort of size rivets. Why can't I find it? So you want to just make sure that that rivet is seated properly in the die. And then I'm just kind of checking there to make sure that I have got them lined up and that I'm happy with them. Oh, that's why my die's a bit loose. There we go. So that is the front and the back panel done. Obviously you can sort of choose which way around you want them to be. I'm just going to put a nameplate on mine. You can use sort of like a handmade tag if you want to. You don't have to put one on at all if you don't want to. You could put it in the pocket. Janet's asking, can you put rivets on without that grid? Yes, you can. You can get rivet setting tools as well. It's just, it is slightly easier with the green machine. And if you're setting a lot of rivets, then it is worth it. But if you don't use a lot of rivets, you know, it is a big investment. Right. I think I will set mine about an inch and 3/4 down. So I'm just lining up my plate, like the backing plate. I know which sort of holes I need to mark on these backing plates. Each backing plate is different though, so just double check on, you know, against your nameplate which one you wanting to sort of use. So again, like always, I'm just using a little bit of beacon glue. I don't use loads. Obviously you don't want it to be sort of spilling out and spoiling your fabric, but I just like to use it because I think it helps to secure the hardware in place. Now again, I know I've got Decaville on here, but I am just going to put another little bit on. I don't think you can ever sort of create too much security with your hardware and such like. Sue says, am I drinking? I am. I've got me really big knockoff Stanley cup. It's not a Stanley cup, it's a Snidey Stanley cup. But I am. Remind me to keep drinking though, Sue, because we all know what I'm like. And again, just a little bit of duct tape just to protect those prongs. So I'm happy. I'm actually happy. They can all get moved to one side. I am going to put my other purse foot on my base. I caught the screw. Woohoo! So on the base all I did was I found my centres, I marked across 1.5 inches, and then I marked on the long side, and then I marked 4 inches. I thought it was 4 inches along, and then basically where those lines have intersected is where I'm putting my purse feet. So do just want to use a little bit of extra Decaville, because although obviously I've got plenty to support the hardware, I find that just using that little bit extra Decaville helps to stop that gap between the hardware and the purse foot. My goodness, I am flinging everything on the floor today. And I just put a little dot, just sort of like literally into the hole where the purse foot is going to go, where the screw is going to go, and tighten it up. And I just make sure that that is all nice and tightened. So I've already done the other 3, because you don't need to see me put all 4 in. And then, as per usual, just a bit of duct tape across. How many inches do you use for the squares? Yeah, I've used 2 inches. I tend to use either 1.5 inches or 2 inches, but I discovered I have this ruler that is 2 inches wide, and it makes marking my quilting spaces very, very easy. So I went with 2. So that is my base all ready to go. And should we put the exterior together, then move on to the interior? How shall we go? Yes, let's do that. Let's put the interior together, and then we'll exterior together, and then we'll move on to the interior. So I'm basically just going to line up the base with one of these edges here along the bottom and clip, and that gets sewn together at 3/8. And then I'm just going to top stitch that. So it gets top stitched. Obviously I am going to have the excess fabric inside of my machine because of the foot that I have on and the way I like to top stitch. Just make sure these threads are long enough. So seams towards the base, so you want the seams facing this way towards the base. And as I'm going along, I'm just making sure that those seams are going the way that I want them to go. This thread is just looking the bomb. I absolutely love it. And then exactly the same thing on the other side. Donna's saying, I got a bundle, rivet, S-spring snaps and magnetic snaps. Yeah, they are like so good to use. That's one of my old clips. So just matching up that center, clipping on either side, making sure that everything's lined up. Sophie's saying, some nasty person put me off sewing last night. Don't let people, I was going to say a proper northern term there, but like, yeah. You just do you, Sophie, and don't let anybody else sort of pee in your cornflakes is basically what I was going to say. Like, they're not worth it. And then exactly the same thing. It's getting quite big now. Not as big as last week though. I haven't sent anything flying. Well, the bag hasn't sent anything flying. I have, the bag hasn't. So again, seams towards the base. And just top stitch all the way down. Oh, you can really kind of see the stitching in the light there. So now we want to sew our side seams, and trusty stapler. I am going to line up where my accent pieces meet and put a couple of staples in, and then basically just kind of clip the rest. So it kind of will want to sort of push out because you've got those handles in there. And I might as well do the other side. So I'm basically making sure that I have those accent pieces lined up nicely. And then clip the rest in place. I might have the clips on the wrong way, but they can easily get turned around. Sue saying, hate it when people are rude to others, just ignore them. The way that I look at it now is people are only jealous. 100%. Okay. Let's get this show on the road. I'm just wanting to make sure that I keep this seam nice and straight. And then just before I go over onto the other side, what I am going to do is I'm just going to run another row of stitches just behind that first row of stitches. And that's just because obviously both sides are vinyl, so I just want to make sure that it is as secure as it possibly can be. And when you're doing your second row of stitching, if you sort of need to cross over in order to straighten up that 3/8 seam or 1/2 inch seam, whatever the bag is that you're sewing, you can sort of do that just to sort of make sure that your seam is right. So let's get rid of all of these threads because we know how much I hate threads. I am going to butterfly these seams open and just run some stitches along just to keep this seam nice and flat for when we come to put the bag together. It makes it a lot easier. You don't need to put loads in. I only put sort of, you know, maybe 3 or 4 stitches, but it just creates that sort of nice flat seam so that it makes it easier to put the lining in place, basically. So I'm going to line up that seam with my center mark here and clip in place. Do the same on this side. So flatten that seam out. If you want to baste this seam flat open before you start, you can do. So basically that center seam is matched up with my center mark on my base, and I am now just going to sew this at 3/8. So trying to keep the bag out of the way as much as I can, keep my fingers on my threads. And just like I did before, I'm just going to run a second row of stitching. trim all of that stitching back, not stitching, sorry, those loose threads back. And then exactly the same thing on this side. Tracy says your ring finger looks very sore. Yes, I've had an allergic reaction. The joys of having the condition that I have. I have allergic reactions. So basically I didn't take my rings off when I've used a product, and then it's kept the product underneath my finger and I've had an allergic reaction to it. My fingers were very, very swollen this morning when I woke up. Basically like my whole hand was was up like a pudding. But yeah, I think it looks a little bit more painful than what it actually is. It is quite sore, but it's not drastically bad. I was actually going to put a plaster on and I totally forgot. Just because I know it looks sore, but it's all right. So look at that. I don't want to turn it through just yet. But I'm sticking my head in to make sure that I'm happy with my corners. And I am. So let's move on to our lining. Oh, I tell you what, let's do first, so that I don't forget, is let's put our strap connectors on. So basically, strap connectors just want to be basted where those seams are. This is for your crossbody strap. If you do not want a crossbody strap, you can omit this part. If you're just having this as sort of like a handbag without a crossbody, then you don't actually need to do the crossbody strap or put these strap connectors in. But now is a very good time to baste them in place so that you don't do a deb and forget. So I'm just basically lining them up in the middle. I'm overshooting them by about 3/8 of an inch-ish and basting them in. Donna says her rheumatoid arthritis gives her swollen and painful hands. Sausage, yeah, my hands were very much like little sausage hands this morning. It obviously meant that, you know, Andy had to bring me a cup of tea in bed for me to recover, which worked a charm, obviously. Donna says I'm planning on using triangle rings for side connectors. That would work great. So let's do our pocket, our slip pocket first. Now, surprisingly, I am not actually going to be using an accent piece today. I thought I would switch it up a little bit and just do it plain. So this is probably a deviation to the pattern, but I do like to do my slip pockets this way. Now you can press these seams if you want to, but in previous videos I have sort of said about using double-sided tape does work, so I thought I would use double-sided tape on this one. So I'm basically just marked in an inch along each edge and put some double-sided tape on this side of the mark. I'm just going to take the backing off both sides. And fold that edge to that line. So like I say, you can press it, you can use double-sided tape if you want to, whichever is your preference is absolutely fine. If you want to use double-sided tape and then press as well. Oh, my interfacing is coming up a little bit there. I obviously missed that bit when I was doing it. But yeah, if you want to use the double-sided tape and then press, you absolutely can. Tammy's saying, I so wish I had the confidence to do a live. Tammy, just do it. I muck up and do things wrong all of the time. It's fine. That's what I said about doing a Deb. Sue saying it wouldn't be a Deb bag if you didn't change things up slightly. Well, exactly, Sue. I mean, we know how I don't like to conform to rules. So yeah, so I'm just kind of giving that a press with the double-sided tape as well, just to really help create like a really nice crisp seam. My little mini press there, which I love. It's very handy. And then in a change how I normally do it, if I'm doing it with an accent, if you've watched any of my other videos and seen me do it with an accent piece, this is slightly different. I'm going to put right sides together and I'm going to sew along. Seam allowance is kind of, you know, you can use 3/8 if you want to. I tend to use just sort of about 1/4 at this point. Actually, I should have left my iron on. Let's pop it back on and warm up. Right, trim all those seams back. Donna says it's good to see mistakes sometimes as you show us how to fix it. I mean, Donna, that's totally why I do it. 100% why I make all the mistakes that I make. But no, it all joking aside, like I think sometimes it is good to see that, you know, things go wrong, how you put them right. You know, obviously when you record and edit a video, you can edit mistakes out and what have you, which you would probably tend to do if you were editing a video. But yeah, with lives, you've just got to go for it. So I would definitely say, Tammy, if you wanted to do them, just do them. It was sort of Kasaya who said to me when I had her on the podcast, and I said about being nervous about doing lives, and she was just like, just do it, it'll be fine. And it is. So I've just pressed that seam out just to make it a bit tidier, basically. And I've now pulled it through. So you've kind of got like a tunnel, like a little muff. I could be like one of those Georgian Victorian ladies with my little hand muff. And there's two ways that now you can do this. You can now fold it at the seam and press down and then press the top. What I like to do is where this seam is I like to fold it where that seam is butterflied open. So basically my seam is sitting slightly up towards the back of the slip pocket. And it means that seam isn't sitting where there is particularly a stress point, where that where this pocket is going to be stitched into the bag. So if I'm doing it this way, so if I'm doing it without an accent, so I need to create like those folded seams, this is how I do it. And I'm just pressing along the top just to give that a nice finish. And can you see how square that is? So normally sometimes with slip pockets you put two sides together and you leave a space and then you push it through, and I never ever can get mine nice and square. Like no matter how much I push my corners out, how nicely I try and get it, I can never ever get it as square as what I want it to be. So yeah, this is how I prefer to do it, because I just find that it just works better. So don't actually think there was a slip pocket in this pattern, so I am just going to kind of guesstimate where I want it to be. So the when you're putting a slip pocket in, obviously you don't want it to sit too close to the base of the bag, because the pocket will then sit in the base. You don't want it to get caught into any seams. So I'm going to put mine around about here, which is about two and a half down. And then I've just sort of folded that in half. So there I can see that that's where my half is. And then I'm just lining it up with that edge of the ruler, so that hopefully it is nice and straight. Wrong pin. And I'm just going to pop a couple of pins to keep it in place while I sew it. And I'm just going to double check that it hasn't moved. This side has moved ever so slightly when I've pinned it. So I'm just going to sew down and along and back up again, and then, oh, do you know what I haven't done? I haven't top stitched. It's not the be all and end all, I suppose, if you haven't top stitched your pocket, but it does just make it look nice. So I'm not top stitching the side where the seam is. That's going to be at the bottom. But it does just look better with top stitching. But it, like I say, if you forget to top stitch, it's not the end of the world. It will still function perfectly well as a pocket. So again, I'm just going to line up that little crease. Pin it through all layers, not just the slip pocket. Yes, Sue, that's absolutely right. Do a live, Tammy, and we will all watch. Post when it's going to be. If you're in the Facebook group, post it in the Facebook group. I'm not precious about other people sharing their YouTube videos, as long as they're kind of not just being spammy pammies. Brian saying, I agree too, Donna. Seems like we get out of foibles as a large part of what we do. Exactly. I'm forever getting myself out of the pickle. Donna's saying the edited videos are okay as long as you don't go wrong, which never happens to me. Always happens to me. I've got several projects stalled as I don't know how to fix. Yeah. And sometimes it just... Sometimes you need to come back to it as well. Like sometimes if you've kind of gone so wrong, you need to just put it down and sort of come back to it. So a back stitched at the beginning and the end, and I back stitched into the corner as well. So that is my slip pocket attached to one of my lining pieces. And our zipper pocket. So let's see how far down we need to place this. So it says in the pattern an inch, which will take us to here. And I don't want it to be too close to the underneath of my zipper. So I'm actually going to put it at 1.25 inches. I know. Deb's not following the pattern. Sue's saying, I love the batik that you're using. I got it from Rainbow Fabrics, and it's lovely. It's a lovely quality. Sue's saying that she will watch Tammy's live as well. Absolutely, we will all rock up. So that's just put in place. Want some of those magnetic things. One of the ladies on yesterday's live, or that Bartleby sling, it never took my fancy until I watched that, and then I'm like, I really want to sew that now. Let me just get my little folder of tags. Shall I use a pink one? Let's see what I've got. I've got this pink one. That's green. I think I need to subscribe to Laura's label subscription. Shall I go the Made with Love one or the Hello Sunshine, which is the pink one? Sue, that was a good video. The Bartleby is in my queue and it was helpful. Saved for later. Yeah. As I say, it had never really took my fancy, but yeah, after watching that, I really do fancy making it. Diane saying, I get Laura's labels and bias tape, always good quality. Yeah, I don't know how much I would use bias tape because I don't dress make. But I'm definitely thinking about signing up to the labels. Sue's saying the Hello Sunshine. Let's go Hello Sunshine. You know, and it's one of those things, like I love getting my bag makers box, my bi-monthly one. Absolutely love it. And yeah, I think getting the labels, it's, you know, it's not very much each month, it's fine, and it's every month, so I'd be getting a little treat every single month. You know, I don't smoke, I don't really drink, we don't really go out anywhere, so I'm like, well, it's a little treat to me. And then, you know, obviously I can film it for you guys too. So I am literally just sewing around the outside of this accent piece. I'm not going to go into loads of detail because you've all seen me put in accent pieces before, and I have got a video on it on my channel as well. I am going to check my bobbin after finishing the outside of this one, because I am now thinking it's going to run out when I do the other. So I'm just going to pull this loose thread through. the back, I've got a new, you see my new seam ripper? Treated myself the other day. We were at Haworth, don't know how you pronounce it, and they had a little craft fair. It was so good. It was like a proper craft fair as well. Like, you know, everything was, you know, properly artisan, real makers. Just pull this back thread through. So there was a wood turner there. There was a fella who made leather bags. I stood and talked to him for ages. So yeah, so I treated myself to a new seam ripper and stiletto, because my other one, I think, has seen better days. It's sort of starting to fall to bits. Like the inside, the tunnel, the tube bit is coming loose, and yeah. So I'm basically just tying off these ends where I've pulled them through. You can just sort of put, like, use your lighter on them, but I always just like to use a little bit of tape to help keep them in place as well. Sue says, I'm on a fabric and pattern buying ban. Yeah. Me too, Sue. Me too. Tammy says, thank you all. I don't know what I would make before I do a live. I'd have to ask the designer. Yeah, I always just double check. I mean, some of the designers, you know, I've had permission for quite some time. You know, I asked sort of ages ago any new patterns that come out. I'm just making sure that when I cut this, I'm not cutting my accent piece. I always just message them and ask. Like, I've just messaged Kasaya about doing the Annabelle. I emailed her the other day. Tammy's saying, where do we get the labels? So it was Laura, who is the Specky seamstress, who was on the podcast on yesterday. It's her business, and she does sort of like a monthly subscription for different sew-in labels. The only problem is like, I really want like the sweary ones, like the naughty ones, because I'm a little bit naughty. So once that's cut back, that is the accent piece open, and I'm just going to pop some tape just along the back for when we attach our zip linings. So you have a great incentive to keep your ban, 100%. So we need our lining pieces. I need my zip, and I've just realised I don't think I have I got zip pulls? But I have got some in my drawer in here. I've also got some, I've got some in this bit. So one thing I didn't get out, but I have a great big box full here. So which ones shall I do? I've probably got very few black ones. Watch that, I'll have hardly any black ones. Don't think I want a turtle. They're matte. Keep me pineapple. might have to run into the garage and get a zipper pull. I think I might use the leaf one though for the main bag. Donna saying my Bartleby is stuck at the gusset zip part. You'll have to message in the group as to which bit you're stuck at and we will help. Sue says that she's had updated photos on her bag from Matt and it's looking fab. Where's Andy when you need him? At work. I mean, how rude. Right, let's just cut this zip tape. I'm going to cut it a little bit longer than I need it to be. And then I'm going to go and get a couple of zip pulls. I'm trying to think of which pulls will go nicely with it being sort of like the ink design. So I don't want anything too fancy. But yeah, but I shall be Donna's saying she's the same with her Moxima bag, nervous about sewing over the same thick pieces, going to hammer them down. Yeah, definitely hammer them down. Plain bar, yeah, right. I shall pop the Be Right Back player on and I'll be 2 minutes. I'm back. Hopefully I did remember to mute my mic and he didn't hear me tell Bruce that he's still got an hour to wait for his tea. Because he saw me go through and he was like, oh, it's tea time. And I was like, no, mate, it's not. You've still got an hour. So I'm going plain pull for the inside and I'm going to go for a circle pull for my outside. It wouldn't be a me video if I didn't forget something, would it? So right side of fabric to right side of zip, well, right side facing up. Just going to use a little bit of double-sided tape. Yeah, I'm definitely missed my, can you just go and get me this? Bless his heart. So I'm just lining up the edge of the zip tape. I'm going to do it on this angle with the edge of the zipper panel. and just using that double-sided tape to help keep it in place. So I've kept my zip a little bit longer so I can keep my pull out of the way. And I'm just going to sew this down. I'm going to use about 1/4 inch seam allowance. I find that if I line it up with this, like this far side of my foot, that makes me 1/4 inch, and that is perfect. Andy's just texting me there, so I wonder if he's slyly watching the video. He can hear himself be spoken about. Oh, Brian's talking about cinnamon raisin and sourdough loaf, putting that into the oven. I'm very much ready for my tea. Double-sided tape doesn't want to stick to this fabric very well, but we shall make it work. And then exactly the same on the other side. So edge of the zipper tape to the edge of the lining. And I'm going to sew that down at exactly the same at the 3/8. Sorry, not the 3/8, the 1/4. Donna's saying, stop it, she's drooling. So this wants to be pressed flat, which I don't really want to put the iron on this. Let's see if my glue pen will work for sticking this down. No. Let's see if the double-sided tape will stick on this side of the fabric. I think it's sticking much better on this side of the fabric actually. So I'm just going to run a length of double-sided tape along the back. It will mean that I'm sewing through it, but that's fine. Let's see if this holds down. Yeah, it is wanting to kind of lift up, but it will be fine. I just need it to stay in place for long enough to secure it. And like I say, I just don't want to take the risk of ironing this fabric because I haven't tested it with an iron yet. And I definitely don't want to be doing that on a live and having that go peach tongue. So yeah, that's worked great. So I'm basically just flattening that out. And then you can see how neat and tidy that looks at the back. So we don't have any raw edges in our pocket. And then I'm just basically going to line up the accent piece over the top of the zipper tape. Now I'll put the top on first. So my pieces of my lining are roughly around about the same as my accent piece. So I want to basically line that up so that it's even on both sides, and I can do that by sort of feeling the accent piece where that is in relation to those panels. And then I just stick that down, and then I just basically take the bottom tape off. I do it separately usually. Sometimes I do it at the same time, but I do it separately usually because I find it's easier to do one side at a time. I'm just lining that up a little bit more evenly. I quite often do faff about with my accent pieces till I'm happy with them. My zip is at this end, so I need to remember to move my zip into the zipper accent as I sew around. So I'm basically going to start about an inch down, sew all the way along and up, and then move the zip in. We need to make sure that our lining pieces are open. So, like I say, about an inch away from the edge, like from this edge, should I say, and about 1/8 of an inch top stitch. Right, now I need to move my zip into the accent piece. Jilly's saying, got to drop off, we'll catch up later, no problem. My friend's on Deal or No Deal today. Oh wow, that's amazing. Ellie, we'll all have to watch that later on. Sabine's here, just come home from work, happy you're still on. So I'm just going to pull, or try my best to pull these threads through to the back. This one has caught. Cool. So again, I am a little bit OCD in that I do like to thread my threads through to the back. Don't think this needle, oh there we go, is liking this at all, but there we go, done. So rather than knot on this side of the fabric, I'll knot it on the other side of the fabric so that you can't see it. So this is why quite a lot of the time I do just kind of do my zipper accents kind of off camera when I'm prepping, but I thought I'd do this one today. But I do have a video on my channel showing how I put a zipper accent in. If you ever want to, if you're doing a different pattern and you want to refer to it. Yeah, it's definitely not like going through this fabric. There we go. So I'm just going to knot these off just so that they don't come loose. Just trim them back a little bit. So I'm actually going to try and take off this double-sided tape so that it sits a little better. Oh, I don't know whether it's going to want to or not. It's a thing about flattening it out with a double-sided tape. But I don't want this to roll. There we go. Can I take this double-sided tape off or not? There we go. I'm just flattening out that zipper pocket because I don't want it to be bunched up underneath. And then I'm just evening off this bottom, and then I'm just going to sew up these side. Oh, I didn't check my bottom thread, Janet. You're right. Oh no, I've still got about half a bobbin. I'm good, but I will be keeping an eye on that before I do any more top stitching. Donna's saying I made a right hash of trying to cut out my zipper overlays for my Mr. Heckles. Yeah, there is a knack to just like once you get used to doing it. Right, so I'm basically just going to sew down about ½ an inch or so. I do always like to go over my zip just because Sue saying, has Deb got lost? You might need to refresh, Sue. I think it might be still on the other screen. I can't type. If somebody can tell Sue to refresh, it should. I think Sue's might still just be showing the be right back screen. Thanks, Donna. Oh, Sue, she had us on pause. That is not a very straight line, but that's okay. Just need to rethread my needle, and I'm just going to give it a little scoot over with one of my cloths and some alcohol, basically just the same as glasses cleaner, just to make sure that there's no double-sided tape stuck on there. So I'm just going to take out the bulk in this corner on both sides. Because this is going to help us. Did I work out where the oil was coming from? No, it's still doing it. I've just had to keep cleaning it down. I don't know why it's doing it. Right. And I'm just giving that a good sort of press with my fingers. I will move my zip into the middle. So let's work on our zipper panels. So like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm doing mine in sort of 2 instead of 4. And this is just sort of my personal preference for how I do them. So each side, or each short end, needs to be folded in by 1/4 of an inch. So I have made a mark that is 1/2 an inch from that edge. And I'm just going to use some double-sided tape and basically just fold to that line. And that should give me a nice, neat 1/4 inch seam. So I'm going to do that on each of the short edges. Sophie's saying she's been having fun with her Wi-Fi connection as well. Yeah. Oh, our Wi-Fi is awful. That's why I have all of mine now. Like, I'm Etherneted in to our internet because it is awful. Donna's saying she's done it before where she's had it on pause as well. So I am going to fold in half and just make a little snip, and then the same with the other one, because I need to know where my center is. You can mark with a pen if you want, but I'm just literally putting in the smallest of snips. Okay, put that to one side. I need the rest of my zipper tape, which is here. Obviously my zipper tape is longer than I need it to be, but rather than cut it down at this point, I am just going to cut it down when I'm done. But you basically need 16 inches or so. I've got about 26, but mine can get cut down once I'm done. So I am going to use my 3/4 inch. What scissors are these? They're just like a rose gold scissors. I used to sell them on my website, but I don't have them anymore. But I think that they're just kind of generic ones, but they are. Or are you talking about these ones? These ones are millward. I'm sure the millward ones. that I got from where did I get them? Might have been Dunelm. So I'm just making sure that those edges are seared so that they aren't going to fray. I've marked along at 3/4 of an inch from the end, and I've basically marked it against this edge, so I know that this is nice and straight. I haven't marked it against this edge because this won't be 100% straight, so it's against from this edge. And I just fold it down at that little mark and then fold it up to meet the teeth. Again, I have got a video on my channel that shows this process in much more detail. So just trim off those little tiny bits. But yeah, Melissa, I'm pretty sure they are millward. I think that's how it's pronounced. So I like to use my lighter to put these in place. Obviously, if you are using a lighter, be very, very careful not to burn your fingers. It's always handy to have, I always have like a little spray bottle of water, obviously from my iron, so it's always handy to have, you know, some safety precautions in place. But they should be all melted together and be able to be kept in place. So come back to our zipper panels, and from just after, so about 1/8 of an inch after where that snip is to mark my center, I am just going to use some double-sided tape along this edge, and then sort of stop it, you know, about the same, 1/8, 1/4 an inch away. And I'll tell you what else I'm going to do, because it makes it easier when I put my zip on at this end, is I am going to mark a line on the back of my zip, so that when I come to, hopefully you can see that, when I come to put my zip pull on, I know that it's going to line up. Oh, that might need a little bit more pinching together. I might end up running some stitches down this just to keep it in place, but we'll see. These lighters are awful. I thought buying like good quality lighters would work, but they aren't very good. So I'm just lining up the edge of this zipper tape with the edge of the vinyl. And one thing I do when I'm doing these zipper panels, just come in a little bit closer, see if you can see, is I always offshoot the edge by about 1 or 2 teeth, so that it sort of tapers in ever so slightly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this over and have these edges meet. And clip that in place. I'm going to use quite a few clips because I want to keep this all nice and together. And then obviously the fold is where I have marked, I'll just put these to one side because I'm going to need them in a minute. The fold on this end is where I've marked. So obviously what it means is I don't have these excess seams in here. So this gets sewn along at 1/4 of an inch. Now I'm just going to put my other foot on because I think it makes it a little bit easier. I'm still waiting on my narrow foot coming. I have ordered a narrow foot, but I don't even think it's been sent out yet. And I'm not getting any replies when I email them, which isn't good. So 1/4 of an inch. Obviously I've got this little bit of excess peeping through, so I'm going the 1/4 of an inch from this edge, not here. And I just want to take it really slowly. I want to make sure that I get this nice. If you need to, you can use a stiletto or something to keep everything sort of nicely lined up. And then I cut that corner out like that. Just sort of sear those edges of the zip. Sorry. And then turn it through. Now we do need a top stitch, but I'm going to hang on to top stitch because I prefer my other foot to top stitch. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop a clip there, turn this through and pop a clip there, and then just pop a couple on this side as well, just to kind of keep this vinyl out of the way. So that's one side done. Obviously we still need a top stitch, but like I say, I prefer my other foot for top stitching. So yeah, so we need to do this one is the opposite way around. So sometimes the easiest way to do it is to have it there and then turn it. And again, just using some double-sided tape just to help keep everything lined up. and just coming in from about a tiny bit in from that center mark, just because you don't want the teeth to be exactly where that mark is. So it's a little bit out there, so I'm just going to readjust. Like everything, I will sort of faff until I've got it lined up how I want it. And then clip this in place. And I'm basically, just before I start stitching, Sue's saying got to go, we'll catch the rest later. No problem, Sue, enjoy the rest of your day. I will post a picture in the group when we're done. Just before I start sewing, I'm just going to make sure that I have got it the right way, I haven't got it twisted, and that I'm happy to kind of continue on. So it is worth, like, you know, especially when you're doing zipper panels like this, just making sure that, you know, you have got everything exactly how you want it. I'm just going to do the same as I did before. I'm just going to pop some clips in to line everything up before I top stitch, and I'm going to change my foot over to top stitch. Make sure I've got that properly tightened up, because numerous times I have been sewing and one of the foot has just dropped off. I'm just going to check this thread again before I start. Yeah, I'm fine. Before I start top stitch. So basically this is just going to be going around the entire rectangle and top stitching. Obviously this side is just really more of a basting stitch to keep everything together. want that to be slightly closer, but probably not a full stitch, so I'm just going to use my foot. And then I'm basically just doing exactly the same thing, but just on the opposite side. So let me see, I think I'm going to go from this. As I'm going, I'm just sort of like giving the zip a little bit of a tug, not a massive, I'm not pulling it taut, but I'm just giving it a little sort of tug just to make sure that that seam is nice and flat. And then again, exactly the same thing down this outer edge. It's more of just a basting stitch to keep everything together. Tracy's saying that makes a placket so much neater with a folded edge. It does. It's pretty much the only way I do it. I'll only do it the other way if I really want the underside to be the lining. Obviously, because doing it this way, you have you know, your top and your bottom are the same, but it is much more what I prefer. So I'm just going to straighten myself up and then get my zip. And then just pop my zip on. You can see that that's not going to be right. It's not lined up properly. So because I've made those marks at the back, I can see if my zip is going to line up fully. One side seems to be going in much quicker than the other side. Nope. Slightly out. So try again. Because you really want to have your zip matching so that your placket is exactly right. It's better. So my zip is on and I'm pretty happy that that's lining up all okay. Like I say, I need to cut this back, but I'm going to do that in a bit. and I'm just going to pop a clip on the end of that. So home straight. So I like my zipper to be on the back, and then I like my bag to open left to right. So I am going to start with my lining piece that has the zipper pocket on. I'm just going to find these centers, and then right side up lining, right side up zipper placket, we are going to line these pieces together. And I'm just going to quickly baste this in place. You can, if you want to, put your you know, your top lining piece straight on and just sandwich them together, but I want to make sure that mine's staying where I want it to be, so I'm going to baste it. It'll take me 2 seconds to do, and I think it's worth just taking a second or two to do that. So now we want our accent piece, and we want the longest edge, not the shortest edge, the longest edge, and right sides together. So right side of the accent piece to the right side of the zipper, and it will overhang ever so slightly, so don't worry about that. That is right. And let me just check. Yes, 3/8. I was just double checking that it was still the same seam allowance, 3/8 of an inch. So again, if you want to use your seam guide, and then we're just going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. Now I do obviously need to top stitch, under stitch, but I'm going to do that in a second. Michelle's here saying sorry she's late. New piece of furniture came this morning at 9 AM and I've not long finished putting it together. Oh wow, that's a long day, or a very big piece of furniture. Now you just have to fill it with fabric. Oh, we can help with that. We can help sharing all of the wonderful things. So exactly the same thing is I'm going to baste this in place. Just cut back these threads. And our other accent piece, so long side, right sides together, match those centers. And like I say, it will overhang ever so slightly. That is right. Michelle's asking, is that Emma's fabric from the bag maker's box? It is. So we now have our zipper panel installed, and we just need to either top stitch or under stitch. Now I'm going to see what the pattern says. Press the inner band away from the zipper panel and lining piece and top stitch the seam allowance along the bottom edge of the inner panel. Right, okay, so the pattern is saying to top stitch along here, which is like what I'm going to do. I'm going to follow the pattern, shockingly, but just to kind of like let you know, if you want to, if you top stitch on this top bit, what that will do is that will give you a zipper panel that is slightly concave. I think it's concave. If you were to understitch, so therefore put all of the seams towards the lining, what that would give you would be a zipper panel that would be concave, so that would sit proud. If you top stitch, it will have it, it will sort of like go down, like you'll have like it'll be concave. So obviously, you know, follow what the pattern says if you want to, but if you want to change up how your zipper panel sits in your bag, if you want it to sit so that it's lower, top stitch. If you want it to sit so that it's a little bit more concave, then you would understitch. Hope that's helpful, and you understand my mad ramblings and what I'm even talking about. So I'm going to follow the pattern, and I am going to top stitch on the very bottom of the this lining panel here, and I'm basically just making sure that all of my seams are pointing towards the top, and I'm going to do that on both sides. Janet's saying that's interesting. Michelle's saying she still to use hers, yet it's too pretty for you to use. I know, like I knew pretty much as soon as I got it what I was going to make with it. So we are now basically going to kind of repeat the same steps as what we did earlier on. So let's just get some. But I am going to leave quite a big gap in the bottom of one of these base seams, because I'm basically going to do double birth method. So 3/8 of an inch all the way along. Oh, that one didn't cut. If you want to top stitch your bases down like we did on the exterior, then you wouldn't obviously leave an opening in the bottom, but because that's kind of what I want to do, then I'm not top stitching my line, the bottom of my lining down, but you could do if you wanted to. So I'm just kind of sewing a couple of inches along. And then doing the side seams, so little stapler, I'm just going to staple in each side because I want these side accent pieces to match. So I'm just using the stapler there to keep them in place. Just making sure that my zip is inside. Last thing I want to be doing is sewing through my zip and catching it. Oh, my bobbin has just run out. Janet's saying I've just bought a stapler after watching you, was a great idea. So this is definitely a 3 bobbin bag because I had 2 bobbins and I've gone through both of them. So definitely a 3 bobbin bag. I will just mute my mic. So third bobbin ready to go. And just make sure that I put my speed back down. The amount of times that I don't put my speed down, and yeah, like my sewing machine takes off at a rate of knots. So I'm just going to finish off this seam. And exactly the same as when we did the exterior, just line up that side seam with the middle. That's why it's so handy to have you know, all of your centers marked. It does make it so much easier. My seam is ever so slightly out at the bottom, but that is fine because we can just kind of adjust if we need to, but I think it will be all fine within the seam allowance. And then exactly the same thing on the other side. So I just like to trim back all of the threads, and yeah, I hate loose threads. I mean, my Hoover hates them even more, but hey ho. So just trim back this bottom seam. And exactly the same as what I did with the top, I am going to butterfly this seam open at the top. Just open the zip so it can flatten out a little bit more. So just using a basting stitch, just put a couple of stitches in. To keep it nice and flat. So before I put the two together, I'm going to make sure that all of these staples are out. And the same on my exterior, just make sure those staples that I put in those side seams are out. Okay, and then I just want to trim back any of the seams. So I'm going to leave this bottom one, that's fine. I am going to trim back this side seam. I don't trim back like right to the top. I like leave that seam intact, and then my exterior, I'm just going to do the same. I'm just going to take some of the bulk out of this seam, just by about half, making sure I don't go through any of those stitches. Yeah, don't think there's any other seams I need to trim back. So I am going to turn my lining through. Just push out the bulk. We don't need to worry about it being massively sort of pushed out or anything at the minute, because we will do that once it's been burst. And I want my zipper to be on the back of my bag, which is the opposite side to where I have my name tag. So I'm just going to pop that in, just making sure that my handles are out of the way, my zip is out of the way, and hopefully you can kind of see or get the gist of what I'm doing is I'm matching up those center seams. Obviously my my strap connector sort of slightly protrudes over the edge, so that can't be lined up exactly, but I'm lining up either side, and then I'm going to match my centers. Now you might have to need to be this way. You might have to sort of jiggle it about a little bit, because you have got those handles in there, which does kind of make it, you know, you have got a little bit of bulk in there, which you might need to sort of work around. But once you've got, these need to be this way. Once you've got those centers marked and you've matched up those side panels, that's slipped. It should all meet. Now use plenty clips, because you have got those handles in there, so it kind of will want to move around. If you want to staple it, that is fine. But just use as many clips as you want, as you feel comfortable with. I'm just going to make sure I've got all my clips on the right way. There's my first clip on the floor, which I don't think is bad going. like to get to this stage, and I've only put one clip on the floor so far. So this gets top stitched, not top stitched, put together, and the seam is 3/8 of an inch. So obviously you've got quite a bit of decaville in, so you just need to sort of keep manoeuvring it round. Flatten it out. I am going to back stitch over where the side connectors are. So obviously that has moved ever so slightly, so I'm just going to line it back up again. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around and stitch round again. Just, oh, my thread has snapped. Oh, it hasn't snapped. It's just gone a bit weird. Yeah, I'm going to go around and stitch another row of stitching. Basically just to make sure that I have it as even as I possibly can get it. And it is easier to kind of sew it when you haven't got the clips to contend with. So I've just got quite a few loose threads where I stopped and started there, so I'm just going to get rid of those. And I'm just going to neaten up this seam allowance ever so slightly. So sometimes I don't actually cut back my seam allowance. The outer fabric here has slipped quite a bit, so it has only just caught in. This purple fabric is actually, this purple vinyl is actually horrific to use. I do not like it at all. I will not be buying it again. So I'm just going to squish this basically underneath here and make sure that I have caught in this purple fabric. It's not the prettiest, but Sabine's saying, decided a pattern buying ban is not much fun. Definitely not. So I've bought this pattern and the Annabelle. Can't wait for the weekend to come and make them. Yeah. So let's turn through. As best we can. Okay, I'm going to have to sit back, so this is going to be off camera, sorry. I need to sit back in my chair. This is still a bit that I struggle with my finger, sort of gripping. Like I can't grip very well, but I am getting there. So I'm going to push these corners out. And the same on this side. Untangle these handles. There we go. So at this point, what I'm going to do is try and get this lining and bring it up through this zipper pocket. Obviously this fabric is really quite bulky, so it isn't the easiest, but we shall get there. So basically need to sew this seam shut. So match those centers. And just pop a few clips in. Now, you don't need to have it exactly sort of straight, like pulled like all the way through, so it's sort of like really, really straight. I've got these clips on the wrong way, because you can sort of maneuver it round as you're sewing it. Obviously the zipper like opening is much smaller, so you do have to kind of like pull it through. So I am just going to work this underneath my foot, and then just sort of gradually, I'll come onto the other camera, just sort of gradually sew it round. And I'm just kind of going to, these clips do not want to stay on. I'm just going to gradually sort of like manipulate it round. So I'm not trying to pull it all through at the same time and pull it all straight at the same time, because that's just going to be really difficult. So as I get sort of further round, so it'll sort of feel like you're sewing on a curve, like that you're sewing a circle, but you're not. It will be a straight line. It's just the way you've had to kind of manipulate it round. So let's just trim back this seam. So all of these corners can now get sort of pushed through to make sure we're happy with them. Straighten my zip. So I'm going to roll my top hem round now, and I'm going to do this while I've still got the zipper lining open, because it means if I need to, I can get my hand up inside and push those seams from the inside if I need to. Just trim that thread back. It seems to be going okay. Put that zip in there for now. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to close up my zipper pocket. And that can then get pushed through. Sue's saying she's watching while cutting out the Sweetie by Sarah. Thought this would be a good bag for it. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. So basically my lining just kind of needs all pushing out and into those corners, but that's fine. Now what I don't want to do is, because you can see I've got quite a bit of creasing in this vinyl with the Decaville. Basically, like I say, I'm not keen on this vinyl at all. I don't want to turn it through to be able to top stitch sort of from the inside, but so that I'm top stitching onto the exterior. So what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to start on the back. I'm basically going to manipulate the bag underneath. I need to make sure these threads are to the side. And I'm going to top stitch it from this angle, which is a little bit awkward, but like I say, I don't actually want to turn it through twice. So I'm just going to really take my time. Oh, have I caught my zip? No, I haven't. I thought I'd caught my zip. So when you're doing it this way, it is a little bit more difficult trying to sort of keep everything out of the way. Tracy's saying she bought some purple vinyl from eBay and it was awful to sew. It stretched terribly. Yeah. To be fair, I think the company that I got this from do sell on eBay, so it might be the same one. I bought it from their website, but I think they do sell on eBay as well. So I've got to a bit of a bulky part here, so I'm just going to use my hump jumper and my single stitch, and hopefully that will be okay. But yeah, I definitely won't buy this vinyl again. Beautiful colour, absolutely gorgeous colour, but not nice to work with in any way, shape or form. Right, let's make sure that this is tucked out of the way. Just making sure that I'm not catching anything in, or trying to make sure I'm not catching anything in. To be fair, it's still creased a fair bit, so I probably would have been as easy to just turn it, but hey ho, hey ho. So I'm going to cut my zip back to about here, I think. And get my zip end out. Use a little bit glue inside. Like I say, I don't use much. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this zip. I'm trying to sort of see if I can get a good angle. So I'm going to fold this zip sort of back on itself. So it's kind of like folded in three. And just use my lighter just to kind of try and get those two sort of squish together. And then just push the zip end on. And it just keeps it like, it just keeps that fold nice and neat at the back. I think I need my electric. Yeah, I need to go and get my electric screwdriver to put that in. But you can see. So that can get pushed down in the corner there. And yeah, that is the bag all finished. Like I say, I just need to really sort of push these lining corners sort of like right down. Which I usually like to sort of have the bag flat on the table, and sort of, I'll show you what I mean. Like I sort of like push against like the flat of the table and then like push into the corners. And I find that means that I can get my corners in really, really nicely. So yeah, I'd absolutely love this fabric. I love it so much. But like I say, we'll not be buying this vinyl ever again because it is god awful to work with. And then my crossbody strap on. But yeah, I'm really pleased with it. I think I'm going to get my my sort of air gun type thing onto this just to sort of get those creases out. But hopefully you can see that my my sides line up really quite well because of where I've stapled them. But I absolutely love this pattern. Like, it seems like it's a lot of work, sort of with all of these sort of side seams and everything. Not side seams. Every bag has side seams. These side accent bits, but oh my word, I just think it's so worth it. Like, yeah, but yeah, the creasing on that vinyl, and as I say, I think it's probably the same one that you had, Tracy, because it did have a fair bit of stretch to it. Sue saying I get my vinyl from Manmade UK and Maura from Country Cow. Yeah. Brian says it's beautiful and big. Yeah. Everybody's saying it's gorgeous. Looks fantastic. But I am really pleased with how this has come out. I love like the way these handles are done. I do like using these double rings on this bag. I think it adds, I mean, the rectangle rings work really well, but I think just the double rings just sort of really make it something else. And these way of doing the handles as well obviously means you have no raw edges. It's all sort of encased in a loop. It's something that you can add on other bags. You know, you can do your handles that way as well. So I hope you've enjoyed joining me this afternoon. Next week, I think I'm going to do the Vicky May. I think it'll either be the Vicky May or the Penny. Just watch for it going up on my channel. You'll see it in my upcoming lives, and yeah, you can come and join me. So yeah, thank you very much everybody who spent the afternoon with me. I am going to go and pick up, I think I only dropped 2 clips. I'm going to go and try and find those other pieces, like where those 2 pieces went. Got no idea. Laura from Little Stitcher Sews says it's such an Brian says Vicky May. I'll try and do the Vicky May next week. But yeah, but don't forget, obviously Laura with the thread has given that lovely discount up until Sunday, and it's in the description. So please do go and check it out. Sue saying which one's a Vicky May. It's a Studio 77 pattern. But as I say, if you watch out on my channel for upcoming lives, and then I will have everything sort of hopefully in the description. So I'm going to go and check on the dogs. Andy's probably in from work. There's my scissors on the floor. So enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody. For those of you in the club, I'll see you at 7:30, and everybody else I will see on the next live. So have a lovely weekend, and I will see you soon. Thank you for joining me. Bye.